Welcome to Same Spit, Different Face TV. Well, my opinions is facts, and if you don't like my opinions, you can start your own podcast. And it's free. So don't forget to spit on the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification. Spit Squad, let's talk about Joe Budden and Cardi B latest feud. Welcome to Same Spit, Different Face, episode 13 by Fairplay 2333. That's FAIRPLAY_2333 on all platforms. Now, this situation between Joe Budden and Cardi B is an ongoing feud. Now, the one thing I will say about Joe Budden is he's equally as critical as her as he do when he support her. He supports her a lot. He say that she has the hottest verses of the summer. He says it doesn't matter if she writes. She's one of the better women rappers out here. The way she deliver it, and I believe that. I'm a huge fan of like Cardi B when she on features. Her album Invasion of Privacy was a really good album. It really had no skips, right? But I think it's a lot of pressure mounting. And she was supposed to drop an album, but I think what actually held her album back was the fact that Nicki Minaj dropped the album, and Nicki Minaj's album did really, really good. So when you come behind that, a lot of people are going to compare you and say, hey, you didn't do what Nicki did. Nicki did a number one album. Nicki did this amount of sales. You only did this. You came in at this pace. So I think it's a lot of pressure from that standpoint, but she can just keep killing the game on singles. I think if she drop an album at this point, I could see her doing between 100,000 and 150 that first week, but nothing like what Nicki did. I think she kind of let herself cool off, and I think people have become accustomed to just hearing like singles from her. I don't think it's an outcry from fans or the streets to be like, yo, Cardi drop an album. But back to the Joe Budden situation. He basically said that we are never getting the Cardi B album. She just gonna single us to death. And Cardi B actually got online and she kind of got upset about it. And she said that, Joe is always talking down on her, which isn't true. So I was like, whoever is giving her this information is wrong. But she allowed to feel how she want to feel. But one thing you don't want to do is go back and forth with the media. The people put money in your pocket, but the media are the people who put you in front of the public. So when you tell somebody, hey, don't speak on me, don't speak on me, don't speak on me, and then when they don't speak on you, when your album drop and your album don't do good, and you say, oh, these people are hating on me, these people was talking about me when they were saying bad things, but now they won't say nothing about me when I do some good, and that's just not true. And I think one of Joe Budden's standpoints is that, listen, when I always praise these albums, when these artists are doing good things, and I come on here and say, hey, she had a great album, or she had a great verse, or when she was out at the Met Gala, her dress, she was stunning. When he say that, nobody comes out and say, hey, thank you, Joe Budden, for supporting me at the Met Gala. Thank you for supporting my single. But the minute he criticizes something they do, they all want to jump on him and say something about it. So what she does is she put herself in a position to where Joe Budden, if her album do drop or a single do drop, and he come in, he be like, I don't want to say nothing about it. She told me to stop speaking about her. I'm gonna stop speaking about her. And then what she's gonna turn around and say, well, it's a hate train. Everybody said that they don't want to talk about me, and I do this music for my fans, and don't nobody want to support me. But she's putting herself in a position where she shouldn't be supported. And then I think another thing that kind of came weird out of that story was she basically said like, oh yeah, I gave Joe Budden a lap dance, 2 lap dances back in the day. That's it. And then Joe Budden came to line and was like, that girl never gave me a lap dance. So I think Joe Budden is basically hinting at like, yo, Cardi, you wasn't even my type. And not to be rude or mean, but if you seen Cardi B pictures back in the day, she didn't look like she looked now. Now, I'm not saying that, she was atrocious or anything. I'm just saying that she didn't look as glamorous and as made together after she got that record label budget. So I think that's what Joe Budden is hinting at. Joe Budden is kind of hinting at, yo, you wasn't even my speed when I was running through the strip clubs and I was dealing with strippers and XYZ. And y'all got to remember, when Cardi B was in the strip club and Joe Budden was kind of running around, Joe Budden was at like the peak of his career, and even if he wasn't at the peak of his career, he was still Joe Budden out in Jersey. Like people still knew him for Pump It Up. The guys he came up under who brought him into the music game, they were highly respected. So it's like one of those situations right there. But I feel like this gonna die down. It went on for like 2 days, and that's why I had to address it at the very top of the podcast. But to me, it's kind of a waste of time. And if I'm Joe Budden, when people tell me to stop speaking on them, they're gonna start speaking on me. So I got a story for y'all. Like one time, this artist he was trolling. He was trolling after somebody died, and I reported on it. And he like inboxed me like, "Yo, bro, I don't know why you posted that. I never said that was about that." And I told him straight up, I'm like, "Bro, you never said it was about that, but you clearly know that this guy got killed. So if this guy got killed, why would you put out a police scanner audio saying that they saw you running from the scene right after this person got killed? You know what that was about. That was a clout move." So then he was like, "Oh, well, it wasn't like that." And the way it make it seem, people calling me and saying, "Did I do this and did I do that?" and people reporting on it. So can you take it down? And then so what I did was I was like, all right, that's a fine line between defamation. Once somebody hits you up and they tell you that's not me or that's not what that's about, if you keep that up, you can definitely get a defamation lawsuit, because now you're knowingly defaming their character, and other than that, possibly putting their life in danger. So I ended up taking it down. But the thing I said after I did that, I said he know exactly what he was doing. So what I'm doing from here on out, I told him, I was like, "I'm never reporting on anything about you again. You do anything good, I don't care. Don't send it to me. Don't tell me about it. I don't want to hear it." And so ever since that day, it's probably happened like maybe 2, maybe 3 years ago, I've never reported on nothing about that artist again. And I mean, at first he was doing like some of the bigger platforms. He was going around telling this story. And now he's doing like the B-list platform, sitting down, taking interviews, and they probably giving him a bag behind it, maybe 5,000, 2,500, whatever it is. But what's going to end up happening as the time keeps going on, so much of his story is going to be out there, and he's not going to have anything new to talk about, that a lot of these blogs that was paying him going to say, "Well, we've gotten all the stories we gotten out of him. It doesn't make sense to give him money for this because he haven't did anything new. He haven't went viral about anything new." And so when he's out of that platform and he still needs people to post him, guess what he's going to come? He's going to come to the smaller blogs, or he's going to come to the blogs that supported him in the beginning. Now, if you told a blog that's up and coming not to report on you or not to record you, and you don't try to find an understanding with that blog, well, what happens is when that blog blows up and that blog starts to get bigger, whereas I have 29,000 followers now, and when he was talking to me at that time, I probably had like 10,000 followers. Well, now when you want me to cover you, and I'm one of the bigger blogs and growing blogs on the internet, you just isolated yourself out of the conversation, any conversation that I put myself in. So for artists, if somebody posts something poorly about you, especially a blog, you have to be conscious of the way you handle it, because now, especially if we talking about a platform as big as Joe Budden, if you tell him not to speak on you and he actually decide not to speak on you, well, then that means you won't be in the public eye. Just think about a lot of the Cardi B records and features that drop. She's not dropping those those singles herself. She's not featuring those singles on her album. So that means she's not doing marketing and promotion for it. So that means that a lot of these singles that drop, you won't even know that she's doing it. So if Joe Budden isn't speaking on her and keeping her name a topic, it's a lot of music that may drop that we won't even know that she dropped. And then what happens from there? The fans start saying, "Man, I ain't heard nothing from Cardi B in 2 years. I ain't heard nothing from her in 3 years. I ain't heard nothing from her in 4 years." And all she been doing is dropping singles, and she been killing it. But the novice fan base, not her core fan base, don't know that she dropping these things because she don't want one of the biggest platforms out to talk about her. And then that's how, when you finally drop your album, you sell 50,000 copies. Then you start talking about your mental health, and you start talking about how blogs hating on you and how people won't report on you. And now you trying to mend your relationships. This is advice right here for y'all. It's always easier to keep a relationship in good standing than to have to mend a relationship. Schoolboy Q was supposed to have a show in Canada. He got to the border and they turned him around. Now, a lot of people are like, whoa, what happened with this situation? Now, Schoolboy Q is basically saying, y'all banned me, and he's coming right out and say it. Like, oh, they stopped me from coming in, and he believe it has something to do with Drake. Why would it have something to do with Drake? Because Schoolboy Q is close friends, like a cousin of Kendrick Lamar, and he was at one point on his label. I don't know if he still is, but at one point he was. So what that turns into is that now you cannot come into my country. Now, Drake ended up dropping a picture where he had on a Free Yayo t-shirt and he had on some blue slides. Now, the subliminal message behind this, y'all have to remember that Eminem wore a t-shirt that said Free Yayo when Yayo was locked up in jail. I think Eminem was at the Grammys or something like that when he wore that t-shirt. Well, if we fast forward to today, Vlad had asked Tony Yayo about what he think about people beefing with Drake. And Tony Yayo basically said, hey man, beefing with Drake, I really wouldn't do it because when you go to Canada, he's so powerful over there, he can stop you from coming into the country. So that's the subliminal message behind wearing the Free Yayo t-shirt because of what Tony Yayo said. So basically wearing that Free Tony Yayo t-shirt was Drake saying he's in support of what Tony Yayo said on Vlad TV. Now, for those of y'all who don't get the blue slippers, we all know that Schoolboy Q identifies as a Crip from California. So those would be the blue slippers. So if we tie in what Tony Yayo said on Vlad about Drake being able to keep people out the country, then we see Schoolboy Q saying that he wasn't allowed into Canada to perform. And then we think about Drake picture where he wearing the Free Yayo t-shirt and the blue slides. We would definitely be able to tie that together and say Drake is basically taking credit for keeping Schoolboy Q out of Canada. Now, it could be a strong possibility that Drake had nothing to do with it. And Drake is just trolling, right? And trolling in the way of saying he got the power even though he had nothing to do with it. And when you look at this situation, you see what happened when Rick Ross came to the festival and somebody punched him and they got into it. Well, somebody at customs or somebody in the government could have seen that video and they saying, wow, Rick Ross got out of there without being harmed, but that really could have ended bad. Rick Ross only had one security guard. It wasn't a bunch of other security guard there. And what if those other fans would have decided to jump in and all jump Rick Ross and he could have been killed there? So I think it could have been somebody in the government saying, basically, we don't want anything to happen in Canada where we become responsible for whatever happened to these people. So for right now, until this stuff die down and let some time buy back, we don't want any of these people in Canada unless they let us know they coming first. They let us know where they from. They let us know their security. Let us know where they standing, and maybe they can put a detail on them. So I think that can happen. Now, do I think they would keep Kendrick Lamar out of Canada? It's hard to decide because Kendrick Lamar is independent, so he's not with like Interscope or any of those major record labels. So I don't see anybody actually being able to help him get in. So maybe they would keep him out too. Oh, look at that. I should probably get like 4 of these, bro. And the little Da Vinci, it's basic, but it's decent though. Let's see what it is. 3? I'll probably get like 3 of these. Well, I'm probably finna just get my lady all of these right here. Christian Louis Vuitton. That one crazy right there. With Chanel number 5. What a Burberry store. Oh, there you go, right there. Big Sean, man, he did a freestyle, and I ain't gonna take a lot of time on this. He basically dissed Kendrick Lamar, and then when he started to get all the feedback and the kickback from what he did, he basically started trying to backtrack on his words. And everybody who heard it knew that he was definitely taking a shot at him. But Big Sean ended up saying, y'all going with so many narratives. I'm talking to the haters who just keep finding something to point out they don't like about me. It's not even worth explaining, though. I'm just focused on my music. And then he made sure, remember the conversation I just told y'all about what happened with bloggers and how bloggers can help make or break your career? he made sure to tell DJ Academics that he wasn't talking about him. He said, Ack, you know I F with you, but I'm laughing because you know that tweet and that video don't got nothing to do with each other. I think one thing that Big Sean has been caught up in for a while is that, he always want to say he's the best rapper or say he's underrated or say people don't really pay attention to him. Now, one thing about Big Sean, I think that Big Sean can rap, but I also think that Big Sean overdoes it when he rap. I think he raps too fast sometimes. I think when he rap at points where you think he's serious or where you think he should be serious, his voice sounds kind of comical. I actually think that Big Sean would be good as a voiceover actor. But as far as rap, like his time has passed. And what happens when your time passes in a certain field, like look at NBA players, right? When NBA players' time pass to be an NBA player, they start going to the Rico Hine runs. They start going to the pro-hams. They start playing overseas. And I think a lot of times what's hard for like rappers and even just regular entertainers, actors or whatever, they have to understand that when their time is up, and sometimes when your time is up, you have to just go from being that A-list, B-list celebrity, and you have to go to being that C-list rapper. So it's not about pushing the envelope anymore once you not a mainstream rapper anymore. Maybe you'll start to do the stuff you always wanted to do. Or maybe you'll start to push the envelope where you couldn't do it in your career and you can just make legacy music. You can make music that you like. You can make music for your fans. You can make music for your supporters. Yes, you're going to put the music out on a big platform. Yes, you're going to do the promotion that you need for the music, but your expectation for the music is, hey, as long as my core fans understand what I'm doing, that's fine, right? And so when we look at this situation, a person like Big Sean, let me go see how many followers Big Sean got on Instagram, and then I'll be able to tell y'all my perspective of why it shouldn't even matter to him what people are saying about him. Once you're able to get that fan base. Okay, so Big Sean got 16 million followers, right? So he already has a huge fan base. He already got relationships in music. So if I'm Big Sean, you can drop one single per month, and that's 12 singles per year. And the only reason he have to do that is not only because of the money part, but it's because of the legacy part. So if you continuing to drop music and you continuing to stay hot, Tyga is a perfect example of this. Yes, Tyga, who used to be on Young Money. Tyga was one of the worst rappers on Young Money as far as like conceptual wise and lyrics, but he understood that he had a wave, right? So right now, Tyga don't care about who support him or who don't. He just dropped music for his core fan base, and he's actually getting a lot of traction. He's actually had a top 5 single in rap. He's actually, if I'm not mistaken, maybe like 5 years ago, he had a #1 single. Well, when you look at like Lil Wayne, he dropped records. He's not able to do #1 singles anymore. Not saying that he couldn't get a #1 single, saying that he hasn't had a #1 single in a while, whereas Tyga is just slow and steady. He's just dropping stuff for his core fan base. He don't care who like it. He don't care who don't. And he's able to continue to make money off that. And he's able, more importantly, to continue to tour off of that. So what happens when you get out there and you criticize everybody who criticizes your work, it looks like you sensitive. And then what happens from that is the internet trolls see that it bother you and they continue to pile on with everything. And then before long, the conversation isn't about your music. The conversation is about you being a crybaby, or the conversation is about you thinking that you not respected, or the conversation is about how you way past your prime and you need to hang it up. So you can't get caught up in this. And like I said, with 16 million followers, Big Sean can drop one song a month. He can be able to keep his relevancy. He can be able to keep himself in the public eye. When he dropped those songs, he can drop pieces of merchandise with it. It's just so much different stuff he can do. And it's a lot of people who really interested in the relationship that he have with Janaea Nako, if that's how you say her name, right? So maybe they can drop a joint album together, or maybe drop a few singles, and maybe that'll get both of them buzzing. But when I look at Big Sean, I see somebody who way past his prime. I see somebody who I never was a big fan of, but I could be honest and recognize that, yo, he can rap. His rap not the type of rap style I want to hear. His raps sound way too comical and animated for me, especially for the type of image that he try to push. I just don't like it. And I think that, for me being honest, if he wasn't able to tie himself to Kanye West, I don't see him getting that spark to even get his career started. So I think when we are at certain parts in our career, whether we entertainers, whether we actors, whether we rappers, whether we podcasters, we have to come to a point in our life where we say, hey, I want to pivot from this. Maybe you won't necessarily stop doing what you love to do, but you'll be able to say, this isn't going exactly the way I thought it was supposed to go. It's taking me a lot more time, effort, energy, and money to do this, so let me pivot. So from his standpoint, he already got the clout, already got the fan base. So I think that he needs to just focus on what's going on in front of him, stop interacting and trying to prove the fans wrong, because the people who think he trash gonna think he trash. The people who think he good gonna think he good. And the people who don't care, they not gonna care no matter how hard he protests. So my advice to Big Sean would be to just fall back from all of the interactions and getting into it, because the bloggers, once you get into it with the bloggers is definitely gonna take you down. Oh, and one important point I wanted to make. Lil Baby, he was one rapper who was on top of the world. Meek Mill, he was a rapper who was on top of the world. And what did they start doing? They started thinking that they were bigger than the bloggers. They started thinking that they were bigger than the fans. And with the fans are fickle. It's out with the old, in with the new. And if you have a blogger who's very influential, we went from seeing Meek Mill and Baby as being like two of the biggest voices of the streets to DJ Academics basically pointing out all their flaws. Hey, you didn't sell this amount of records. Hey, this rap flow is trash. Hey, you still rapping like you was rapping 10 years ago. And when it came to Meek Mill, DJ Academics was like, hey, you talking about prison reform, but you dropping music that'll put people in prison. That's a hypocrite. And so he started to point out all of the things that the fans may have been thinking and other rappers and people may have been thinking, but they didn't point out. And once a blogger, especially a big blogger, puts a microphone to that, it can definitely kill your career. And that's why Big Sean was quick to say, yo, I'm not saying you Academics, because he know once Academics start, he don't stop, and it could really derail your career. We have some Kobe Bryant news. So first, we'll start off with Kobe Bryant's dad passed away at 69. His name was Joe Bean Bryant. Now, a lot of people don't know that Joe Bryant was supposed to be the next Magic Johnson, but because of some of the things that he went through while he was in the NBA, and people who don't know about the NBA when it first started, it was wild. It was a lot of drugs use going on. It was a lot of drinking. It was a lot of alcohol. Those guys were having a lot of babies on the road outside of their marriage and outside of their relationships, and also just having babies in general. So it was a wild time there. And, you know, Joe Bryant was never able to materialize into the player he was supposed to be because of the things that was going on with him off the court. But he was like 6'9". It's a highlight online. If you go look it up on YouTube, Joe Bryant dunks on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It was a crazy dunk where he took baseline and dunked on him. He was a passer. He can get to the basket, but it just never materialized. And then he went over to Italy to play. And that's basically how we got, you know, the Kobe Bryant who can speak Italian and all of that. But anyway, in other Kobe Bryant news as well, his daughter Bianca, his youngest one, well, no, that's his second youngest. She has been working out with Candace Parker, so we're going to see where her career go and how she pan out and what she can become. Gigi was an amazing basketball player, but Bianca can be fueled by, you know, the things that happened with her father and her sister, and that could drive her to want to take their legacy to the next level. So who knows, maybe in the next 15 years, we can see Bianca Bryant being called as the number one pick to the WNBA draft. Jaylen Brown got caught calling Bronny James trash. He was sitting sideline at the All-Star weekend, at the Summer League in Las Vegas. He was with his girlfriend, and he was there with Angel Reese, and he basically mouthed, "I don't think Bronny is a pro. I don't think he should be here." Now, after he got that call from either LeBron James, Adam Silver, or both, or maybe even his agent just called him and said, "Hey, you know this guy can make it hard for you in the league. You need to walk that back." Jaylen Brown basically went and tweeted out, "Hey, it's incredible, LeBron James' longevity. It's amazing to see a father be able to play with his son in the NBA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." Right now, the thing about Jaylen Brown is he didn't have the best summer league when he was a rookie, but he was able to do other things. So I think the biggest criticism of Bronny James is that people saying he's not able to score. But one thing we know about Bronny James is he's never really been a top tier scorer, and that's because he never went to a school where he had to be the man. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes LeBron made with Bronny's career, is that he always put Bronny around a bunch of other talented players so he can win. Now, that could actually just be a projection of LeBron James' own career on the Bronny. LeBron James is basically understanding that, hey, I've been this great player in the NBA, but I haven't won 6 for 6 like Mike, or I haven't won this and that. So a lot of people look at me and say, hey, he can't be the GOAT because he haven't won championships. So I think Bron wanted to put Bronny somewhere where he can win championships right off back. But the thing is, when you play on a team full of killers, sometimes you just sit back and you want to let them do the job. Sometimes where you should force a shot, or where you should take a shot, or where you should get to the free throw line and get fouled, you able to defer to other players because you playing with other great players, opposed to when we look at Gilbert Arenas' son, Elijah Arena, he's a dog, and that's because the team he plays with is very inferior. So he's able to learn how to beat the double team. He's able to force shots. He's able to make shots that he normally wouldn't make. And so once he actually gets on a team with better players in college and in the NBA, he'll still have that mentality and confidence that he's the best, and he'll still have that dog mentality when he's on the court. So Jaylen Brown, should he have said this? He's entitled to his opinion. Should he have walked back his statement? He didn't necessarily walk back his statement. He just readdressed something different from what everybody was saying. He didn't say no, Bronny isn't trash. He said it's cool to see a father and son in the NBA. So he's still standing on the fact that he called Bronny trash while redirecting the attention to another part of the conversation, which I'm sure somebody called and told him to do. But I think Bronny James will be fine. I think that Bronny James right now, between his first and his second year, is going to be very important who he works out with. It's going to be very important how he changes his mentality. And it's a saying that, you know, if the floor is the ceiling, then the ceiling is the floor. And I think when we look at this situation with Bronny's coming in the league saying, hey, I want to be more like Drew Holiday. I want to be more like, and these players are respected players in the NBA, but they players in the NBA who could have easily been out of the NBA just as fast as they got into the NBA. So let's speak in 2K references for those of y'all who play the game. So if you coming into 2K and you ask that person, hey, what do you want your creative player rank to be? Most people would say they want their creative player rank to be a 99. And if they being realistic, they'll say, hey, I want my player to play like Kobe, or I wanted to play like Derrick Rose, or I wanted to play like Michael Jordan. You always gonna pick the best player at that position to try to mock your character, your creative player after. Well, Bronny James literally came in and said, yo, I want my player to just be a 79. I want my player to just be an 80. So that's where the phrase come from. If the floor is the ceiling is the floor. Basically, you coming in saying you want to be mediocre. And if you come in wanting to be mediocre, the basement is the only place to go from there. Opposed to if you come in and say, I want to be Michael Jordan, well, you might not be Michael Jordan, but maybe you'll be Anthony Edwards. You may not be Anthony Edwards, but maybe you'll be Vince Carter. So coming into the league saying you want to be a subpar player is disturbing to me. So Jaylen Brown is right in his assessment. But I do think that Bronny James will get better, but I do think that he needs like some better training. And I think his training actually needs to be mentally, not physically. Okay, so 50 Cent song Many Man is up 250% in streaming after Donald Trump got shot, the assassination attempt. And if you're not familiar with the lyrics to the song, it say, "Many man wish death upon me, blood in my eyes and I can't see. I'm trying to be what I'm destined to be, and people trying to take my life away." So when you look at it, it kind of ties into the Trump thing. Obviously, it was an attempt on his life. He didn't die. He had all the blood on his ears. You saw the blood leaking to his eyes. So it was like that. And people was basically, they already called Donald Trump the Teflon Don, Don being short for Donald Trump, but also in the mafia and mob world, a Don is like the top leader of the underworld or whatever. So I think that's pretty cool. And that is a testament to the music that he make. And we just had a music conversation earlier where I was talking about how Big Sean basically, he's trying to get everybody on board with what he's done and what he's doing, when all you have to do is just continue to be relevant, continue to keep yourself out there. And when something happens in society, if you liked, people will turn to your music to use it to represent that moment. And we've seen Many Man be used to represent that moment. We've seen In the Club be used to represent the black birthdays and stuff like that. So yeah, this is just like something that's cool, that even though he hasn't dropped an album in maybe like 20 years now, and he's into philanthropy and he's doing TV, producing, acting, directing, that, his music can still have an impact at some point. Lindsey Harden joins JJ Redick's staff on the Lakers as his second assistant coach. So that means she'll be right up under him. If JJ Redick gets sick or go down, she will step in and be the head coach. She will be the first female head coach if he gets sick, or if he have to step down for any reason, or if he get fired, which I doubt because of his relationship with LeBron. But anything could happen on LeBron's watch. Now, when we look at this situation, I think it's great that she got the opportunity to be the assistant coach, but it's two ways this can be looked at. Now, we know that not too long ago, a woman came out and basically said while she was working on the staff at Duke, JJ Redick called her the N-word, and she said that was the only time she had ever been called the N-word in her career. So we can look at this hire as a hire to cover up that story. So it essentially comes out basically, hey, JJ Redick said XYZ about me. I'm a black woman. He disrespected me. That makes news for like a couple of days. But then it comes out that he's hired a black woman onto the staff. Poof. Just like magic, that story disappears. Now, one thing, the reason that story didn't catch the traction it was supposed to, because it's the LA Lakers. The second reason the story didn't catch the traction it was supposed to be, because it's JJ Redick. JJ Redick played at Duke under Coach K. Coach K has coached the Nike Olympic team. He coached Duke, one of the most storied franchises in college basketball history. So when you look at that, man, he has a lot of things on his side, a lot of people who want to see succeed, a lot of people who's invested in his success. Because if you can get JJ Redick to be a staple as a coach in the NBA, well, you have a pipeline for Duke college students to come through. You can tell them, hey, you can go over at North Carolina and sign an NL deal for $2 million, maybe make the NBA, maybe you don't. Or you can come over to Duke, you can sign an NIL deal for $1 million, but right off top, when you get out of here, you're at least going to get a workout with the LA Lakers, because that Duke blood runs blue and it runs deep, and we look out for our own. And that's true. When we look at things that happen with Duke players, it's always another Duke player who comes to their aid, or they rescue, or who speak up for them, or who speak on their character, how they feel about them, whatever that may be, right? So when we talk about this lady, Lindsey Harden, she did coach before. She coached with the Sacramento Kings. So when I mention this, I'm not saying that she's not qualified. I definitely believe she's qualified. I don't think that they would just hire her to hide this story or to make this story look irrelevant. But I do think that they would possibly hire her to bury this story. And, it's a lot of money that go into this. It was a lot of money that went into this hire of JJ Redick. So they just don't want to have this backlash. But, hey, if JJ Redick has to be on his best behavior, because if he gets into any altercations with this woman, or if he says anything that's perceived as racist or bad to her, all of these other stories, well, this one other story, and maybe even other people may come forward, and they may come forward and say, hey, I didn't say anything in the past because I was afraid for my job, etc. Right? And then it's two things that could happen in this situation, and it's just a perspective thing right now. Sometimes, things you do can ride under the radar. So, like, I know a lot of people are saying, yo, well, if JJ Redick did this, why didn't it come out to now? Well, a lot of times when people are on their podcasts, or when people are on ESPN, or when people are doing these platforms, or the time slots that they on, they aren't big enough. So people may even forget about you. They may forget you exist. They don't have to see you in the everyday world they in. But when you get a high profile job like the Lakers, or you get a high profile job like being the mayor or the president, or you get a high profile job like being a lieutenant, whatever that is, the light is shining brighter on you. So it's people who invested, who may have lost that race, who's saying, hey, what type of dirt can we find on this person so we can get in office? Or somebody may say, hey, I missed the opportunity because of the way he talked about me, and let me use this as an opportunity to get him out the way. So it could be a whole lot of different things. I just wanted y'all to see that, but I think this is how it's going to play out. And I think the woman who came out and basically said that he called her N-word, I think that that's going to be swept under the rug, never to be heard of again, unless JJ Redick end up getting into it with his black assistant coach. Once again, this is Fairplay 2333 of Same Spit, Different Face podcast. Well, my opinions is facts, and if you don't like my opinions, you can start your own podcast. And if you do like my opinions, click the subscribe button and follow me on all platforms. Peace. Check out my original Chicago hood movie in the end screen, No Time to Play Fair. Once again, this is Fairplay 2333 of Same Spit, Different Face podcast. Well, my opinions is facts, and if you don't like my opinions, you can start your own podcast. And if you do like my opinions, you can hit the subscribe button and follow me on all platforms. Peace.